Every term, I meet children who are trying their very best to read, but they're still falling behind. It's not because they aren't motivated or capable, it's because something deeper is being missed: their sensitivity to rhythm. And in this post, I'm going to share why rhythm is the missing link in reading development and how we can use it to help every child thrive. So let's take a closer look at what's really going on when children struggle with reading, even when they're giving it their all. I'm going to walk you through what the research tells us about rhythm, language and learning, and I'll also share a little bit about how we've been developing our own insights in the Rhythm for Reading programme so that we can learn more about the way that children make real measurable progress in phonemic awareness, fluency and comprehension. So let's think about gaps in attainment first. We know that gaps in reading attainment tend to grow wider over time. And the data from the National Literacy Trust showed this year that reading for pleasure is at an all-time low. I'm not going to analyse the multi-layered picture that these data paint, as so many factors could and probably do make a big difference. But as you probably know, many primary schools do not have their own libraries, and many municipal libraries have closed. More children than ever now are living in poverty, and so there are limited resources for using public transport to visit the nearest library on a regular basis. I mean, who wants to borrow a pile of library books and get fines because they can't afford the bus fare to go back to the library to return them? It's tricky. People are also spending more time on their mobile devices and less time engaging with each other in person. So this might also be limiting the amount of time that parents and children actually spend on reading books together. Children who struggle with reading are usually very motivated. They do try very hard, and their parents are often doing their very best to help them. And still, despite these efforts, and even with a brand new teacher every September who believes that they really can do it, the result is the same. Their efforts do not translate into visible progress, and these children fall further behind month by month, year after year. It's frustrating because everyone is doing their very best. And also, it's a situation that begins with false hope and eventually spirals into disappointment, shame, and even feelings of inadequacy. And by contrast, the children who have always found reading to be straightforward grow up knowing that they are the clever ones on the fast track to success. When we think about reading difficulties, we often focus on phonics, vocabulary, or comprehension. But there's another layer that's just as important, and it's rhythm. Research has shown that children who are sensitive to rhythm are also more sensitive to the smallest sounds of language, known as phonemes. This sensitivity helps them to decode more easily and with automaticity, which is the essential ingredient for reading fluency. The fascinating part is that rhythm isn't just about music. It's an important aspect of how our brains process language. In every conversation, every phrase, and every sentence that we speak, there is a rhythmic pattern. And when children miss out on those patterns early in life, it can affect how they process language later on. This is why in the Rhythm for Reading programme, we use music to help the children to connect with those patterns and strengthen their reading foundations. So, what actually happens in a Rhythm for Reading session? Well, in the very first 5 minutes, children learn to read simple musical notation. It's quick, it's fun, and it gives them a fresh way to experience reading without the pressure of letters and words. Because musical notation uses rhythm and pattern, it helps children to focus, to listen, and to respond together as a group. Each 10-minute session is built around specially composed music that holds their attention and helps them to synchronize with one another. As they move and clap and read the rhythms together, they're strengthening 3 core executive functions: working memory, inhibitory control, and cognitive flexibility. These 3 core executive functions are essential for reading and learning across the curriculum. Over the 10 weeks of the programme, we gradually increased the complexity of the music, layering in new rhythms, new patterns that actually challenge the children just enough to keep them engaged. And what's so lovely is seeing their confidence grow as they realise they can do it. By the end of the 10-week programme, they're not just reading more fluently, they're interacting more flexibly with each other, and finally, they're feeling proud of their progress. In Rhythm for Reading, we work with children in small groups. We're able to support the 3 core executive functions of inhibitory control, working memory, and cognitive flexibility, and we do this whilst building the children's sensitivity to rhythm by using a mechanism called entrainment. In case you are unfamiliar with this term, entrainment is a natural phenomenon that governs biological systems on a really large scale. And in terms of our own lives, it's the sleep-wake cycle and even minute cellular clocks that are governed by single strands of protein in every single cell of our bodies. There's also a social aspect to entrainment, which can be seen in the way people synchronize their behavior in large groups, such as in a sports stadium, or when marching in military drill exercises, or even when dancing in the corps de ballet. This is why conversational turns that take place between an infant and their caregiver in the very earliest years of life have a biological dimension. So, for example, if conversations tend to be short, abrupt, and functional, then this is the style and the quality of the information that is rhythmically imprinted. Whereas longer, more lyrical and flowing conversations are going to imprint in a more nuanced and a more rhythmically sensitive way. It's really that simple. It would be logical to assume that immersing children in an enriched environment where they are exposed to conversational turns that will build their sensitivity to language to a greater extent would address this. However, this oracy logic overlooks the critical time window of language imprinting, which is in the child's first years of life. We cannot reopen that time window using language because the programming has already taken place. This is why it's essential to work with music rather than words. People use music to self-regulate their emotions and their energy levels on a day-to-day basis. And this is why music is a tool that we can use to recalibrate the children's sensitivity from rhythm to phonemes and to grammatical structures. By the end of each term, I see children who struggle to read volunteering to read aloud with their friends. Their teachers tell me how their confidence has grown and how they're more focused in class and how they're finally enjoying reading. It's such a joy to witness this transformation from frustration to relief, actually, and also pride. And there's the contrast also between falling behind and catching up. Decades of research show that rhythm is connected to language, learning, and even our sense of belonging. When we strengthen rhythm, we strengthen the whole child, including their focus, their fluency, and their confidence. If you'd like your pupils to start the new term on a programme that will rebuild the cognitive foundations that they need for reading well, you can explore the next intake of the Rhythm for Reading programme. You can find all the details in the link below. Thank you so much for watching and for everything you do to help children thrive. I'd really love to hear your thoughts, so please share your reflections or your questions in the comments below. Thank you for staying with me. Bye for now.